Hi, welcome. It's Stacy here from Hempstock Farms, and I am doing a little video to show you how I make a kimchi out of some of the vegetables I'm getting in our weekly baskets from Adama Farms, and some of the things that we're growing here on the farm as well. And another great source of really good local produce and products is the Food Shed. I encourage you to shop at the Food Shed in Woodstock, Illinois, if you're in the Woodstock area, or look for these kinds of things at your own community-owned grocery near you. Head to your farmer's market. Try to get good, fresh ingredients and versus, kind of the mass-produced vegetables that are designed to last, have long shelf life. Instead, get more fresh stuff and less chemicals, less grown organically, all that kind of stuff, and it gives you really good nutrients. So we are looking at a kimchi. Now, the thing with the kimchi is you can make a fresh kind of kimchi style salad, and I say something qualifies as a kimchi if you're basically using a gochugaru, like a Korean sauce, like a spicy red pepper kind of sauce with tomatoes. I think that's a very common kimchi kind of thing. And then I think you can put any kind of, another component of really good kimchi is for it to be kind of crunchy and have a bit of a bite to it and have some tangy sourness to it. That kind of qualifies as a kimchi. So what I'm doing with our kimchi today is I'm using the Napa cabbage that I got in the Adama Farms basket, and this is the cabbage cleaned, and I'm getting ready to cut it. And then we also got some various root vegetables here that I also got from Adama Farms, and these are all different. These are all radishes. You could also use beets as well, I suppose. But I have all different radishes here, and a daikon radish is very popular in a kimchi, and some other different kinds of Korean radishes that you can use. And then one of the tips that I've always seen for doing any kind of radish thing and to kind of adjust your recipe accordingly is to take a piece of your radish and taste it, fresh and raw, to see how spicy it is. That one, I would say, super mild, not very spicy at all. In fact, I'm super sensitive to spice. I'm not getting any spice in that. It's a really nice, mild, crunchy thing. And then we have these guys. Let me taste these little red guys. I think they're spicy, but let's see. Because they all differ based on like harvest, soil, all that. Nope, none of these. And I got a purple one. Let's try all three. No, none of them are very spicy. So that means if you want, that last one was, yeah, the purple one. Purple one was a little spicy. So if you have that spice, you can kind of adjust your gochugaru, or you can adjust your pepper in there, less pepper. That's going to be nice because there's only these couple little pieces in here that are the spicy ones, and then everything else is super mild. I think that'll be a really nice blend that I got going here. All right, so let's get after it, and I'll show you kind of how to prep the vegetables. So I've already kind of cleaned these, and they're just in their cleaning water right now. And what I'm getting ready to do is I got a bowl, put some water in it, and I got to check on this too. Put some water in that, and then I put Celtic salt in there. So this is kind of salt water. And then what I'm going to do is, you can, different kimchis have different kind of like mouth bite sizes. Some people will have 1-inch cubes. Other people have little chopped up pieces. I think I want to go for a smaller, almost a julienne kind of like little matchsticks size. So to do that, I'm going to try to chop up this cabbage like that. So again, this was already cleaned and washed. And I just had it sitting on the counter here. I didn't like try to dry it or anything because I'm going to be soaking this in the salt water. So I'm going to make kind of maybe a little bigger matchsticks than that. That one needs to be cut down more to make the matchstick. I'm losing my purchase here. All right, let's try this again. These pieces are kind of thick. Like that. All right, and then what I'm doing is now I'm tossing this into the brine, which is the water with the salt. And just making sure all my pieces are kind of those bite-sized little matchstick kind of pieces. You can see kind of that's what I was going for. And then I might do even smaller with the other vegetables. I can leave these kind of, that one's a little wide. Cut that down a little bit, make it a little more matchsticky. All right, I think we're good to go here. And then the ideal thing is once it's in this brine, I might pause the video because we need it to soak about a half an hour in the brine. And one of the things that this supposedly is going to do is make it softer. So it's not too crunchy and a little, I think it takes out some bitterness too. So, all right, that's all in the brine. All right, so you can see kind of how much, I don't know. I do this by sight. I don't have cups, you know, so many cups of this, so many cups of that. It's kind of a feel for me. I'm gonna chop this onion up in kind of little matchstick pieces if I can. Let's see, I'm gonna do this like that. Like that. Do that in half. Little long pieces there. There's just something about if you can try to make everything about the same size, then you get a better mouth feel from it all. There we go. That's kind of those size pieces. Then I also have all the radishes here. We'll get going on these. And you can use ones like this is from a week ago, and I actually left them sitting out. The other basket I just looked at that's over at the shop, it was in the refrigerator all this time, and the leaves still look good on that one. So you can use the leaves from the radish as well, but I didn't do it for this because they had kind of wilted over the 4 or 5 days that they were just sitting outside. So you can kind of see what I'm doing is I'm cutting it like basically in 4s so that my matchstick kind of thickness is like that. And then I'll cut these into matchsticks once I get the sizes kind of right. Alrighty, got that one. Some of these. That's small enough. That's good, good, good. Let's do another one. those little ones. Okay, so now once you get them kind of got your height that you want, now you can kind of cut them down into matchsticks. And that's kind of what I mean by matchsticks. They're kind of large, French fry size maybe. You can deep fry these like you do French fries, same thing. If you like that radish flavor. It's another option. I should throw some in the air fryer. See how they do. Alright, so one of the benefits of doing kimchi like this is that basically you're doing it's like lactic acid fermentation. So basically what happens is the sugars in here, they turn into lactic acid, and basically it becomes like a really super amazing probiotic because it's got the prebiotics in it, prebiotic compounds, you've got the fiber, all those things feed your gut health and feed the gut bacteria that you have, and makes it more healthy. All the good things that you're going to get from this is you've got the sulfur-rich allium compounds in here. You've got neuroprotectives. Oh, I haven't talked about all the stuff I'm putting in. So I am putting in these dried lion's mane. So I'm rehydrating this. I picked this up at the food shed. This is River Valley Ranch. They grow mushrooms locally here. And a dried maitake. So I put both of those in a cup. And I poured hot water over it to reconstitute it. And then this is a little tip I have. If you just take a little lid like this and set it on top of your, oh, I dumped it on my recipe book, and set it on top of your mushrooms that you put in your hydrated mushrooms, it'll just kind of hold that under the water. So that's just kind of my hold. And then it's also nice because at the end you can use that. You can hear I'm pouring out the water. And you can use it to kind of really squeeze out all that moisture that's in the water, or that was in the rehydration. And then look what I got. This is, from this to this. Nice, soft, it's rehydrated. And so I put just a few pieces in here. So this is like, let's see, 4 or 5 pieces of the lion's mane here. If you put too much, it'll the water that's in there, it'll make it, I don't know, there's a chance for it to introduce bad microbes, basically, bad bacteria. So I'm putting I want to chop this up though. I'm going to chop that up really fine. I got distracted and I went to my mushrooms before I'm done with my radishes. So let me finish cutting up the radishes. But I wanted to say that the maitake's in there and the lion's mane's in there, and that provides your neuroprotective function. There's a lot of antioxidants in that. A lot of anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. It helps with nerve growth. Just a lot of really good things to add that little bit of extra mushrooms plus all this other stuff that we're doing in here. And I'm going to cut up this whole piece of ginger and put it in there. I like ginger a lot. And I think kind of putting some crunchy ginger in here is going to be really nice too. But we'll see. So the way a lot of my recipes work is I just work with what I have. And I kind of do it by feel. And I really should start writing some of these food recipes down since we're launching the Seed to Table farm dinners, so that I can replicate these things. It's always like, oh, it tastes so good. What's the recipe? Well, it's a few pinches of this and a few pinches of that. All right. Again, this is just the wash water that I'm pulling these out of. The last of my bok choy or Napa cabbage. I suppose you could use bok choy, but bok choy is not quite as crunchy unless you're using the innermost pieces. I like the crunchiness of this Napa. And again, that came from Adama Farms box. All these radishes and turnips, what do you call it, radishes, all these radishes came from there as well. These little ones, I'm just basically cutting them in half and then doing the match sticking. So that like this, just in half, then place it on its side, and then you use, this is what I learned in China, these kind of knife skills. You use your knuckle like this, and you put your fingertip behind your knuckle so that when you bring the knife up, you'll never cut yourself. As long as you keep your fingers curled under and you have your knuckle there, you can, like I'm looking at the screen right now watching myself, I don't even have to look at my hands when you're doing that. It's super protecting. Just, the only thing you might make a mistake on when you're dealing with really small pieces like this is sometimes you're like pulling your thumb around, like you wrap your thumb around to kind of hold it. Just always make sure your thumb is behind that knuckle as well. And then you shouldn't have a problem, ever. Also, I tend not to keep my knives very sharp, so if I do make a mistake, I'm not slicing clear through my finger. Guess that's a good thing about a bad thing, not having good sharp knives. All right, so that's most of the radish. Couple more pieces in here. It doesn't matter how wet these are right now, because what we're going to do is we're going to soak them in the brine, and then once they have that kind of half-hour soak in the brine, then we'll drain them and dry them and let everything dry out really good. All right, so those are all done. That's all of our kind of crunchy vegetables, and now we're putting in basically medicine and spice, which is our ginger. Oh, I gotta find the garlic. I don't know if I have a fresh thing of garlic. Looking for the garlic. Looking for the garlic. Garlic. Well, I don't have a fresh head of garlic, but I do have this ready-made garlic mince. That's nice as well. So this is kind of my spices here. We have the garlic, we've got the ginger, we've got the lion's mane. These are kind of they provide not only really pungent, rich flavors, but these are also where a lot of the medicinal value of this kimchi is, in these things right here. So I'm going to chop these up and get those in that brine as well. And then these, I would say for the mushrooms, because you want it well distributed throughout, I would kind of do this as a very fine chop. In fact, I may not salt this. Let me clean this dish out. In fact, I think I'll chop up these mushrooms without as much moisture as possible, and then start them in my sauce, my kimchi sauce, which we'll put together. So, all right. So I'm going to kind of chop these up as fine as possible. kind of little tip I can give you is I do like to just taste all my raw ingredients as I'm going along. And that's the lion's mane. Lion's mane in this form is very mild. Maybe a tiny bit of earthiness, but there's really no strong flavor there. I mean, there's a little bit of a mushroomy kind of flavor, like, you know, that you would typically familiarize yourself with, like mushroom soup or something. Let me try the maitake. Get that piece swallowed. A little piece of the maitake. Also super mild. They might have a little bit of a, I don't know how to describe it, like a chalkiness kind of feel to it, but both the flavors are really mild. So I'm not worried about leaving big chunks to impact the flavor. I just want small little pieces so that this medicine, you know, this is a lot of medicine going in here, that the medicinal value of these mushrooms gets equally spread throughout the kimchi. And again, we're just making kind of functional food here. We're making food. You know, my goal is to look at making different kinds of foods, or teaching you guys how to make different kinds of foods from raw materials, raw veggies, fresh whole greens, different things, foraged stuff. That's also good for you. You know, food is medicine. And as long as you're not eating like just raw lettuce every day, like white iceberg lettuce that has zero nutritional value to it. And there's fiber there, but you're getting my point. More flavor, more colors, more fresh things. These all makes you more healthy. And if you do eat preserved things, hopefully it's done, you know, freezing is a really great preservation method if you have the freezer space. Pickling is a really great method. So you can use methods that don't use a ton of salt, or that salt can be rinsed off after you uncan it. Just something to think about, to try to not have so much processed foods and chemicals in what you're eating every day. All right, that looks pretty good. I mean, if I really minced it, it'll kind of match the garlic that we're putting in. All right, so there's that. It's all my mushrooms. Take a look. See, mushrooms. Whoop. So this is going in my mixing bowl for my kimchi sauce. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Lots of things you can do with that. Make a soup, make a sauce, make a gravy. Put it in your pasta. All right, now we've got our ginger pieces, and again, I kind of want to try to matchstick these, maybe a little bit smaller matchsticks, because ginger is very spicy. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm kind of slicing it into these thinner slices, and then we'll come back at it and make little matchsticks, kind of teeny tiny matchsticks. And again, there's my matchstick size. Again, this is something you could taste. Yep. Whoa! It's crazy spicy fresh. Whoa! Alright, I'm putting these into my brine with the other. Whoa, that is spicy. I might back off putting that whole root in there. Wow. That is crazy spicy. That's delicious. But man, that's kind of... Ooh. Make sure those chopsticks are... So see, that's... You know, I tasted that and I'm like, wow, that's crazy spicy. So it's making me want to make the pieces smaller. So you're not getting that big, huge chunk of ginger in your mouth. It's making them kind of small and thin, like half matchstick size. Ooh, that spice is still lingering on my tongue. That's all I can taste right now is that ginger. Ooh, I don't know. Do I want to do more? Let me see what that mix is like. And this is my brine. So that's kind of the mix we got going so far. I'm going to do a little bit more ginger. Do a little bit more ginger. Nice sticks. Save that piece. Do some really nice sticks out of this. Cut that in half. I'll do teeny little sticks. Yeah, little ones like that. All right, I think that's probably enough ginger. I'm gonna save these little nubs for later. All right, so this is my brine. So I'm gonna let that, I'm gonna run a little bit more water in there. So there's my brine. Again, this had the Celtic sea salt in it. And I'm just gonna let all these vegetables cover it. Just cover it with the water and let them kind of soak in here. You can use that same technique that I used with the cap lid here. You could just set a dish. Well, that dish is too big. You can set a dish in here that kind of weighs that down and keeps everything underwater. So that if you have stuff floating at the top, it'll kind of get underneath that water and take some of that salt. All right, let's get our chopping board cleaned up. I think I am pretty much done chopping stuff up. Now we're working on the sauce. So I can finish that. Get my knife cleaned up. All right. So now, this is our sauce. All right, we've got the dried maitake, dried lion's mane in there already. I'm going to add some garlic. Now, this is kind of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do basically equal parts of, and I'll read you my list, soy sauce, fish sauce, honey, rice wine vinegar, sesame oil, sesame seeds. So based on this amount that we have here, I don't know, maybe 20 of the, see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. 6, 3 times 6, 120 mil. I think I could do maybe 30 mil, and I have this little measure. You can go do it by teaspoons if you're doing, you know, if you have a teaspoon to measure stuff out. But I think it's a little easier to use these little mil measures. And I think I'll start with 30 mils of each of those liquids, and we'll go from there. and I'll taste it, see how it tastes, and then I can up things. Oh, there is one item I forgot. I got my garlic and ginger, cabbage, my root veggies. I got onions in there. I forgot to put carrots in. I do want to cut up some carrots. Let's do that next. Get carrots. And again, I don't like to remove the skin on carrots, so I'm just going to wash them. The skin gives you, it's good fiber, there's a lot of good things in there. A lot of times you end up scraping away good nutrition, skinning your carrots. So I'm just going to wash them. And then I do use you can use like a steel wool to kind of just get that dirt, if there's any kind of stubborn dirt or anything on there. And you just want to be careful with your steel wool, make sure that there's no pieces sticking to your, because sometimes it can be a little shreddy. And you just want to make sure that those aren't stuck to anything. Nobody wants to eat a piece of steel in their kimchi. So you just take a good look at them, make sure you've got your glasses on. Those of us that wear glasses and reading glasses. Alright, so now we got some carrots. Get my chopping block back, my knife back. And again, this is the same thing we want to do. Want to make the same kind of julienne to match what we've got in there already. So I think I'm going to make sticks about this long. So each of these will become a stick. And again, we do the taste test. Yum, that's a good carrot. I'm getting the same thing. I'm cutting it like in the match, like that. And then you can do a little more challenging to do these sticks here, but it's because of that rounded surface. That's the kind of sticks we're getting. So those will go into my brine. Carrot's nice and sweet. It's good crunch to it. And I'm sure some of you have little nifty gadgets like mandolins and that kind of thing where you can do this a lot faster. I'm just kind of old school. Alright, that might be a couple more pieces. I don't want to be too carrot heavy in here. And again, you see how I just kind of go by sight, by feel. You know, mix this around, see how much. You just don't want any one vegetable to dominate the other. And then when you mix the stuff around, then you can kind of catch some of these big, you're like, oh, that's too big of a piece in there. It doesn't quite match the others. Yeah, it's looking pretty good in there. I think it could take some more carrot. These little thin pieces. They're what I call pretty ugly. they look pretty because they're kind of ugly. You know, they're natural. Pretty ugly. Also, these tips tend to be sweeter. Do it like that, then we do it like this. Alright, maybe a little bit more. Alright, so there we go. I got those chopped up. See how that looks. I don't know. I want to keep adding them. I think I'll keep adding them. Rhonda, you want a piece of carrot? Huh? No? Okay. Then it's all going in the kimchi. You guys can figure out your own ways of fast forwarding through this. I don't know why my screen went out. I can barely see it. Hopefully it's still recording. I'm gonna pause my record.